coming up on Hunter News Now. Students take to the streets to protest a CUNY tuition hike.
And the men's volleyball team is ranked 12th in the nation. We'll introduce you to their star player. All that and more in this edition of Hunter News Now. Hello and welcome to Hunter News Now. I'm Ricardo Montero.
And I'm Laura Bennon. Spring is in the air, which means it's budget time in Albany. Lawmakers worked for 5 days past the deadline in the state's capital, but failed to pass the next year's New York State budget. A big issue on the table is funding for higher education. CUNY tuition at senior colleges is set to increase by $250 a year, which is very unpopular with students and faculty. So unpopular, in fact, they took to the streets. March may have come in like a lion, but at the month's end, the roar of CUNY students and faculty protesting CUNY tuition hikes could be heard from Brooklyn to Manhattan. Students and faculty gathered for a press conference before marching over the Brooklyn Bridge to City Hall at the CUNY March in March, organized by City Tech student Hercules Reed. The message is clear: invest in CUNY and its students.
Tuition hikes are on the horizon again. CUNY was made to be affordable.
Members of the Professional Staff Congress, PSC, the union representing faculty and professional staff, also came out to support a tuition freeze for their students, as well as increased funding to hire more full-time faculty and offer better pay to adjunct faculty.
Investment in CUNY is an absolute necessity.
City Tech students Deja Simpson and Kira Roberts came to the march to show solidarity and take action.
It's a really important cause, and if we're not going to say anything, then nothing's going to be done. But if we fight for it, then we can possibly make some type of change.
Education, invest in CUNY! Yeah!
Some students like Kira don't get financial aid, so a tuition increase could mean a delayed graduation or no graduation at all.
I think it's very important to come out and stop tuition from going up, because if not, then I feel like a lot of students will drop out.
Three-time CUNY graduate Jamel Henderson, who's running for city council, is concerned for the next generation of CUNY students.
Students who I mentor. I think about the students who are in dire situations right now that really cannot find a way to make ends meet.
Governor Cuomo and state lawmakers could not pass the budget on time because of disagreements on issues including the governor's Excelsior Scholarship Program, which would pay CUNY or SUNY's tuition for full-time students from families making less than $125,000 per year, but would not help most part-time students. The state legislature will reconvene on April 24th.
Hunter has its own budget problems. The student activities budget has a $1 million surplus, which may not sound like a problem, but it is. Many clubs have not been spending the money allocated to them, and Hunter is in danger of losing those funds that aren't used. USU President Matt LoCastro wants to reallocate those surplus funds to the activities the students are asking for.
So we see that students have been demanding more pool hours, more rec hours. They also are hoping to have more classes like self-defense workshops or yoga.
LoCastro is proposing a school-wide referendum to decide how student activities are allocated.
Hunter's annual Library Day celebration is coming up on April 20th, and this year there's plenty to celebrate. Back in 2006, Hunter President Jennifer Rabb formed a task force to come up with a plan to modernize the Cooperman Library. Well, the latest phase of that multi-year project is complete, with the 6th and 7th floors now open for business. Those looking for a seat in the library look no further. The top floors of the library are finally open. With several new study spaces, students now have many more options for doing their work.
It's a much more conducive environment to studying, and it feels like Hunter cares about the infrastructure for its students.
The library boasts new reservable study rooms and new locations for the Dulciani Math Center, Rockowitz Writing Center, Skirball Science Center, and a new library for education majors. If you need to finish a paper, work on a science project, or even take a nap, this new part of the library is your go-to place. The library was built back in the 1980s and serves more than 20,000 students, even though it was originally designed for 9,000. Hunter College has its first ever Pulitzer Fellow. The Pulitzer Center offers top student journalists a $3,000 fellowship to travel abroad and report on globally important stories. Hunter senior Amy Russo has been selected and will spend 3 weeks in June reporting on the 35,000 refugee children living without their parents in Sweden.
I just never had to report on something that's really a crisis at all before. Most of what I've done has been mostly community stories where there's not really very sensitive subject matter involved.
Fellows produce multimedia stories that will then be published on the Pulitzer Center's website.
The Pulitzer Center is also hosting a panel discussion about the global impact of refugee crisis with 3 multimedia journalists covering this story. That will be at the Roosevelt House on Wednesday, April 19th at 6 p.m.
Coming up on Hunter News Now, the president of WHCS Radio will join us to discuss that controversial budget proposal by USG President Matt LoCastro that could affect many clubs around campus. Stay with us.
As we told you earlier, there's a surplus in the student activities budget, and in that money, if it's not cut or spent, Hunter could be audited and lose that funding.
USG President Matt LoCastro is proposing several budget cuts that some clubs and organizations say are just too harsh. Many clubs also say that they were not consulted.
Here to talk about the student activities budget and how the proposed cuts could affect WHCS Radio is Wally Ahmed, the president of the station. Welcome to Hunter News Now.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Wally, first, what do you think of this proposed budget?
The proposed budget is a pretty interesting presentation because of the fact that it was presented to solve a problem. But the issue that we all have, or many of us has, is the fact that no one was consulted. So when I became the president of the radio station, the first thing when I met my e-board, our goal was simple. It's the fact that we had surplus in the previous years, and we want to make sure that going down the road, we are not going to have that.
By no one was consulted, do you mean you were not consulted directly by Matt or the people pushing for this proposal?
No, no one spoke to us when it comes to the fact that there is a referendum in the works. And to be honest, if someone had consulted us, I would have been there to help Matt. But sadly, no one was even spoken to about this.
How do you think that this will affect WHCS Radio?
So based on the current proposal, we are getting about a 40% cut. So right now, we have spent almost more than half of our budget for this current year. But the allocation next year, we have already spent that amount. So basically, our budget is going to be halved next year compared to this year. So it is going to be a very big strain on our production and also our daily operations.
So let's just make this clear. The process to this surplus is in the student activities fees budget, yeah?
Yes.
The process to spend that money, at least as WHCS Radio goes, what do you have to do to have access to that money?
So currently at the moment we do have access to money and we are working and we have everything planned out. So by the end of 2017 spring semester, we are not going to have any surplus. So we are on track for that. I think Matt LoCastro said the same thing about USG. So we are both on the same trajectory for our organizations. But when it comes to the overall budget and the overall surplus, when it comes to all other clubs, there's a lot of other issues. Like there's always CA being one of them because, for example, there's a publication called Hunted Heroes Comics, and they have 6 comics issues currently in the PO department, the purchasing department, and that money hasn't been spent because the purchasing department has not been able to process them.
And are there any ways that we could get rid of the surplus that won't affect WHCS or other organizations and other clubs here at Hunter?
I believe that is absolutely the case because currently I am working with all the other publications. We are currently bringing back the Envoy, so we are all working together because spending the surplus is all about coordination and also working together because there's always big projects that all the clubs are trying to work at. And if all of us sort of work together, then a lot of these bigger, more complicated projects are just about putting the pieces together.
I'd like to know a little bit more about WHCS. I walk by, I see the door open. Can you tell me a little bit about what your letters stand for?
Yeah, so WHCS Radio is where Hunter College speaks. We aim to be one thing, and that is the voice of all Hunter students. So one of the reasons we have our door opens is we want to be a welcoming space. So anyone can drop in anytime, ask us any question, whether it's about, what kind of shows that we're doing, whether they can do shows, whether they can join our teams, or, any general Hunter-related questions.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Waleed, for being here. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Coming up on Hunter News Now, we'll go behind the scenes of the Vagina Monologues and catch up with our star athlete of the week and show you how a great selfie can give you a professional edge.
Welcome back to Hunter News Now.
For many students, graduate programs are a luxury that they cannot afford. However, the Master of Fine Arts in Creative Writing at Hunter College is challenging that stereotype. Nick Augustine has more.
Your parents can't call this program a waste of money. That's because it doesn't cost anything. Starting in fall 2016, the Creative Writing MFA became completely free for in-state students who were accepted to the program.
We're the first in New York to be able to offer that, which we're quite proud of. We're a very small program, and so it's a good opportunity for students to build a true working relationship with our faculty members.
With perks like these, acceptance to the program is incredibly competitive. Of more than 550 people who applied, only 18 were accepted into the program. For students like Stacey Engels, this program has been a godsend.
You have the Hertog Fellowships, which also made it possible for me to even consider it. Although I knew that I was going to find a way with the tuition, but it made an enormous difference.
In addition to studying memoir craft, Stacey is also teaching an undergraduate class focusing on distinguished writers.
Always to refer to
This course is built around a lecture series by distinguished writers, sponsored by the MFA department, and MFA students are encouraged to attend.
Taya Obrecht, author of the New York Times bestseller The Tiger's Wife, says the series provides students with a valuable opportunity
to spend time with them, to ask them craft questions, to really get to know the particular processes that some of their favorite books went through.
Students also have a chance to work with authors under a different fellowship. Past authors include Toni Morrison, Jonathan Franzen, and Salman Rushdie. If you want to win a National Book Award, the Hunter MFA program could be Chapter 1. For Hunter News Now, I'm Nick Augustine.
The Women and Gender Studies Department ended Women's History Month with a performance of Eve Ensler's most famous play, The Vagina Monologues.
I was worrying about my own vagina.
As you can see, not an empty seat in the house, even though Hunter students perform this play every year. For those taking part in the production, the underlying message is clear.
I think people will take away that women are strong and women are leaders, and we're not going anywhere, and we're not afraid.
The proceeds from ticket sales will go to V-Day, an organization that helps prevent crimes against women.
A big win for the men's volleyball team last week. They beat the number 7 ranked NYU in 4 sets, and they're heading into the CUNY ACT Championship next Thursday, April 14th, right here at Hunter.
Ahead of that match, we want to introduce you to one of the captains and star players of the team, Joseph Muir. Christina Williams has more on our Student Athlete of the Week.
Volleyball is important to my life because it's a way I stay active, and it's a way to have team building, because that's really important to me, is to be a part of a team and to work well with others. And my teammates are my best friends, and getting to spend 2 extra hours a day with them is the greatest thing in the world. My name is Joseph Muir. I'm a libero for the men's volleyball team. I'm a junior and I'm a media studies major. So my role on the men's volleyball team is one of the I'm one of the captains on the team, just being like a leader on the court and off the court. I always knew I was a college level athlete, but I wasn't sure which sport I wanted to participate in. The recruitment process for me was pretty crazy. I was initially getting looked at by UCLA and Hawaii. When you talk to like these Division I big school coaches, they don't respond to you right away. I didn't really like that because it was just so open-ended. So I emailed the head coach at the time here, Ray Bello, and he responded to me within like 30 minutes. The coach-player relationship is extremely important because that's who you're getting all your answers from. As the libero, I only play in the back row, so I only play defense. So my main responsibility is pass the ball. And each pass is rated on a scale of 1 to 3. And so, striving for the best is for passing threes. I was the libero of the year last year in the CUNY conference. And I've also won libero of the week 8 times this year. But I'm not really in it for the personal accolades. I want the team to do well.
According to the British newspaper The Telegraph, the average millennial will take 25,000 selfies in their lifetime, and Hunter's Career Development Services is doing its part to make sure the self-portraits a little more professional. To take the ultimate selfie, model and artist Gina Trakert said make sure that your head is slightly tilted downward for the best look. She also says don't turn your head more than 30 degrees if you want the most flattering angle. Students attending the fair were totally into both selfies and getting their pictures taken and left with some great advice. I honestly think we took about 17 selfies already in the studio.
I think we already have because we love the way we look.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps up this edition of Hunter News Now. We hope you enjoyed the show and that we'll see you for the next one on May 4th.
From all of us here at Hunter College and at Hunter News Now, thank you for joining us.